Every verse in chapters 1 and 2 is paralleled in chapters 3 and 4. They're two different stories that run parallel to each other. It is only in verse 3 Jonah disobeys in 1:3, and over in the third chapter, 3:3, where Jonah obeys. That's the real difference in the two stories. And whether Jonah obeys or disobeys changes what happens in the story. The main character in both the story in the first two chapters and the story in the third and fourth chapter is the prophet Jonah, which makes the story of Jonah different from all of the other books of prophecies. The focus in the other books of prophecy is on the words that God gives to the prophets. The focus is not on the prophets. In the other books, God is the main actor, but in this book, Jonah is the main actor. And in fact, in the whole book of Jonah, there are only 5 Hebrew words of prophecy. Let's take a moment here to dig down a little deeper into the text. The text starts out just like all of the other books do. Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah. So far, so good. Let's see what verse 2 says. Go at once to Nineveh, that great city, and cry out against it, for their wickedness has come up before me. But Jonah set out to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid his fare and went on board to go with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of the Lord. In response to Jonah getting on that ship, God says, ho, 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 wait, not so fast, Jonah. But the Lord hurled a great wind upon the sea, and such a mighty storm came upon the sea that the ship threatened to break up. The sailors that were on that ship, sensing that it was supernatural, they started praying to their gods, and they did everything that was in their power to keep the ship afloat. They threw things over. They played with the sails. Well, while they're doing all of this, where's the prophet of God? Where's Jonah? Well, there he is, sound asleep in the hull of the boat. The captain goes down, wakes up Jonah, and tells him to get praying to his God. Now that too is hysterically funny, because Jonah has got to be the worst prophet ever. The prophet of God is asleep and clueless, while the pagan sailors are immediately able to identify the storm as supernatural. They pray, and they're the ones who get the prophet to do his job, to pray. They also use the ancient method of casting lots to discern who is responsible for this supernatural storm. The lot falls to Jonah. So immediately they ask him to explain himself. Jonah says, I am a Hebrew. I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the land. Do you hear the ironic humor in that? While knowing that God is the creator of both land and sea, Jonah tries to escape by boat via God's sea. Jonah follows that brilliant thought with another. He says to the sailors, just throw me overboard and the sea will calm down. But the sailors, unwilling to sacrifice Jonah to secure their own safety, take to the oars, trying as hard as they can to get them back to land. This too is crazy. The runaway prophet of God is contemplating suicide, while the sailors, who are stereotyped as rude and crude and foul-minded, try righteously to save him, but to no avail. Out of options and energy, the sailors finally reluctantly throw Jonah overboard, and as they do, they ask God to be merciful to them. Immediately, when he goes over, the seas cease from raging. The sailors are awestruck, and they respond in faith. The rest of the story of Jonah is the story that we're really familiar with. God assigns a huge fish to swallow Jonah. I couldn't decide if I liked this picture better or this one to capture the moment. While in the fish's belly for 3 days, Jonah, on his own, without any prompting from the sailors, prays. Turns out the belly of a whale is a great place for contemplation. God, hearing Jonah's prayer, graciously has the fish vomit, and that's what the scripture says, Jonah back up on dry land.